One of the biggest questions we face as government contractors is how do we stand out? And most contractors try to do this through lowering their price and giving a reduced service. I remember the first time I found out what was the differentiator for me. It was exactly when we were going to this site visit down in Albany, Georgia. I was living in Tampa, Florida at the time. I didn't have money for a hotel, so I left out really early in the morning, 2 o'clock, drove the 7 hours, got there for my meeting at 10 o'clock. I go into the contracting office and this little small Southern lady comes walking through the door and she says, "Hey, you're the only one that showed up today." I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, there's a tornado warning that came through the area and all of the other contractors called out." Back in my mind, I'm like, I was not looking at the news. I didn't care about the weather. My business was currently a $500,000 in the hole. There is literally no way I ever would have missed this meeting. That was my first multi-million-dollar government contract. That was the contract that literally differentiated us and gave me the understanding that, man, we got to continue to keep showing up. By showing up when everybody else canceled gave me the immediate opportunity to show that I was reliable. And when these government personnel are literally writing contracts, they don't want to write contracts and have a problem. They don't want to be bringing you into the principal office and trying to work this thing out after the fact. And by showing up when everybody else canceled, I showed I was reliable. Because at the time, I was a 25-year-old kid, fresh-faced, I had one suit, had started wearing pinholes through the suit because I was wearing it so many times to go to these vendor outreach events. It showed them that I was hungry, showed them that I was reliable, and it showed them that I would do whatever it took. And that's exactly what I did. I get it. I understand why most contractors struggle when showing up. There's so many things that are going on in my personal life, let alone the business. Estimates going out the door. We got proposals that we're constantly working on. Operations. We got project managers that are calling. We got superintendents that need support. We got the finance team. We got bills that need to be paid. Invoices that are coming in that got to get inputted into the system. There's a lot of stuff going on. None of this is just happening in a bubble. So I get why it's easy not to be reliable. But if you really want to take your business to the next level, you have to be reliable. You have to constantly show up. You have to do whatever it takes. That's when the rewards start to come. I remember a couple years back, we were a $10 million company and we had some personnel on our team, but it was mainly out there in the field and I was running a lot of the stuff in the office. We were going after this project for the Bureau of Prisons. It was a roof project. We were putting together our proposal. You know, obviously we had everything else going on in the business, other bids we were going after. We had other projects we were running. Literally the day of the bid, I didn't have the proposal fully built out. I figured in my mind that I was going to start working on this thing at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then boom, I get the phone call. We had an issue on a project. I got sucked into some meetings. Next thing you know, it was 2 o'clock. The bid was due at 1 o'clock. I was so upset. And that was one of the reasons why we wanted to start bringing on estimators that could put their full focus on going after these projects. That's why we wanted to bring on project managers so that once there was a problem on a project, all of the phone calls and the meetings weren't coming to me. Honestly, that's the thing that helped us transform and grow to the next level. Number 2 way I would stand out as a government contractor is through my marketing. All the experts would say, "Hey, Oliver, put together this one sheeter. Put all your projects on there, all these words, all these numbers, contract values, start and end dates." And I used to do that in the beginning. It wasn't until I stopped doing that and started adding in some pictures. I had a picture of myself in there like, so you go to these events and there's 300 people talking to that one contracting officer. And once they get back to their office, they throw all the stuff on their desk. They're just looking back through it and they're just seeing logos. It doesn't humanize anything. Whereas they would find mine, like, "Hey, I remember that kid, man. That kid really left an impression on me." And I would get calls back from it. Also, while I was sitting down going through my capability statement, I would have pictures of the things that we were doing. Because a lot of these contracting officers are not technical people. They don't know what a chiller is. They don't know what an air handling unit is. And they would see the pictures and they would jog their mind and be like, "Oh, you know, we do have projects like that." And it was such a game changer because no one else was doing it. I remember taking a flight out to Washington State. I had never even been out to the West Coast. It was Whidbey Island. We went to the Navy. They literally started going through our contract capability statement, saw my pictures, saw the projects that we were doing. Man, they were blown away by the projects that we were doing. And it was resonating with them because they actually had projects that were similar to that they were currently working on. And it ended up being a $3 million project. And it was an amazing project for us because we were able to execute it right when COVID hit. It was concrete, it was rebar, there was no delays with material and equipment. This thing was a game changer because all of a sudden we had this big chunk of money that we used to then grow the team. And I understand why most contractors struggle with this because you have all of these experts that are saying, put together a website or put together this one-page capability statement. None of that stuff is humanizing and the government is not coming to your website. People will be like, "You don't have a website." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know I don't have a website, but I've done over $100 million million worth of contracts. Government doesn't go to your website. They go and look at your capability statement. You don't humanize your capability statement. They're never gonna remember you. They're not gonna remember your logo. There's no human element to your logo. And that's what the contracting officers that I've met with have said. Another way we stand out as a government contractor is through our communication. We had this project just recently here in DC, and the government showed up on our project unannounced. They were definitely coming up looking for a problem. Our team knows when the government comes on site, we don't run, we go up to them. One of our team members was in their truck. They got out of their truck and they went up to the government. Government started asking questions. Our team member was communicating very well because we train on communication, greeting them, put your hand out. How you doing? Good morning. And once the government started asking us questions, we knew our stuff. Nobody knows the plans and specs better than us. They were literally eaten out of our hand by the end of the meeting. They were like, man, you guys know what you're doing. Hey, we just shut down a project down the street because they didn't have the same level of communication that we did. When we show that we can communicate, we just elevate. And I know why most contractors struggle with this, because we've struggled with it as well. Finding great team members that are good in construction, but also good at communication. So we find great contractors that are really good at construction, but we train them on the communication. Whereas a lot of these contractors out there, they just hire people off the street, but like they don't know how to communicate well with the government. They don't know how to keep their files, their submittals, and their RFIs all in order. If you're doing a project for the Navy and they show up on your job site and you're not good at communication and they just walk all over you and shut your job down, it's costing you money. And it can't always be the project manager communicating. We need the superintendents communicating well. We need them to have their emails in order. We need them to understand how to get through a submittal and communicate what's on the submittal to the government. Then we also have our meetings, walk through problems. We see problems as opportunities. When problems present themselves on site, we don't start throwing our helmets and getting a bad attitude. We collaborate together through group communication with the client, the government, our subcontractors to find a solution that's gonna work for everyone. All right, if you're looking to stand out, use these strategies in your business. You won't have to drop your price to try to stand out. That's a race to the bottom and nobody wants to be in that business. If you got value from this, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. And if you know a contractor that can implement this stuff in their business, go ahead and share it with them. Let's roll and have a great day.